Hello and welcome everyone. I just wanted to do a quick video to talk about what I've learned with color grading and videography. So this is DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is a free program that you can use for editing and color grading. The studio version of it is $300. It's well worth it. It's worth every penny, as you'll soon see. So here's some footage that I took today. This is a cable camera shot. So this is a camera stabilized on a gimbal. So I've got a gimbal stabilized cable shot, or sorry, not a cable camera, a crane camera. This is a gimbal on top of a crane. That's all you really need to know. So the camera is basically 18 feet in the air for this shot. But I wanted to show you what color correction does. So first off, let's pay attention to these parades, these Rgb parades. What this means, these are basically the balances between the three primary colors, red, green, and blue. And you'll see that there's variations of those balances in the colors for red, green, and blue in these scopes down here. So the first thing that I had done is I came in and I saturated it. I give it a deeper saturation. I adjusted the balance between these colors. So there's a lot of settings in here that gave this the tone, the look that it has. So what you're looking at is the original footage. That's the original coloration. By the way, I'm going to cut this. There's some idiot put a road cone right there. So I'm going to have to cut. I'm going to have to cut right to there. Keep my playhead there, and then we'll cut to that footage there. But look at my scopes with no color correction. And then let's look at the waveform. So the waveform is a representation of lights and highlights in the image. And look at how many sections. If it goes all the way to the top, that's a bad thing, especially with the white. If it goes all the way to the top with the white, that means you're blown out in your lighting, in your white tones. And so the white tones are blown out in several sections on this. A lot of it, I would assume, is going to be the sky. And then we are also blown out on colors in some cases. So there's some dominant color schemes that are not really working. So that's not great. And then the Vectorscope is going to show you, how close you are to center with your color scheme. The problem with the Vectorscope is it just paints the picture of balance. So if everything is equally bad because it was overcast today, it was heavily overcast today all day. It was a great time for a shoot. So the Vectorscope is basically going to lie to us. And the Vectorscope is good. It's good for skin tones. It's good for, seeing if you're overall too far out of balance. Because you'll see here in a second when I do the color grading, I'm going to go ahead and turn on that node for the color grading, and then you can see how much the Vectorscope just lit up. It stayed pretty much center, right? But you can see the major difference. Hopefully you're getting the image quality on this. The major difference in the quality of this video. It's very much alive. It pops a lot. You can see the reflections. You can see some depth in here. You can see a lot more detail. So these are the adjustments that I made. The mid detail I brought up. The saturation, normally you'd leave the saturation at 50, but it's such a bleak, murky day that I really have to saturate this, which is unusual. And then the highlights and the shading, I actually brought down the top tones, the highlight tones. And then, and I also adjusted the shadows so that the shadows give it a little bit more depth. So those are the adjustments that I made. Then in each one of these wheels, I made slight adjustments, taking out some red by going a little bit more into the blue quadrant, and then going a little bit over here to correct and kind of balance out that blue adjustment. So just keep in mind that every adjustment that you make in this software has consequences. So what you want to see with this is you don't want to see your scopes get bottomed out too much or topped out too much. So look at the balance in these Rgb parades. Again, what we don't want is all the way to the top, too much of that. So we're really trying to get something that's really more well balanced. We brought these highlights down. I probably could even stand to make an adjustment, you know, on the highlights themselves and bring them down even further. I mean, let's watch this. Yeah, so I could watch this. And there we go. That's getting it to where it's touching the second line. It might be a little much. There we go. That's a pretty good balance. Now let's look at our Rgb parade. Okay, good. So we're all touching the top line here. So these highs, wait, here's the interesting thing. I mean, if it was a murky day, then why do I have, you know, such incredible highs? Well, it's just what I believe is happening here is the clouds are very bright. Even though it's overcast, the clouds are very bright. And so they're kind of blowing out our image, but not the way the direct sunlight blows out the image, because direct sunlight will just blow it out. It'll go all the way to the top. But the you know, the cloudification, the cloud overlay of the image is really kind of making it stagger. So let's watch this now. So this is the color correction node. So basically what you want to do is create multiple nodes with these in a series, and you right click, you say, hey, I'm going to create, you know, add a new node, add a serial node. And then what that allows you to do is create stages. So I could have 6 of these and say, here's the adjustments I made here. You know, let's turn those off. Let's see what it looks like with them, without them. And then I can make adjustments here. Now, Blackmagic Design, I watched their tutorials several times because I wanted to learn from a master trainer. So what you're seeing is not a result of my intuition at all. It's a result of watching that master trainer for probably 4 hours. Just her methodologies and the way she goes about approaching each individual image. Now, here's the interesting thing about color correction. Color correction is only good for the framing that you have, right? So our color correction, watch these RGB scopes. When we start going into different areas, when we have more green in the shot, they're flowing up and down. It's keeping all pretty well balanced. Everything is staying around that first line, that second line from the top, I should say. And then watch this. Watch the red scope as we get. There's another building over here that's red. Watch that red scope. Here we go. Yep, there we go. As soon as that building, and you can see it. You can see it getting drawn right here. Let me pause this. So right here, you can see the red scope is blown out, and this represents the image overall. So this represents the right side of the image, right where this building is where the red scope is blown out. Now the blue is getting impacted by the blue in this building as well. So if I move, watch the RGB scope as I move the playhead back. Right there, that's where I want my clip to end. I want my clip to end. So I've got a good color balance. I'm below the second line. And I want my clip to end right before, right there. As the car gets to that position, that's where I want my clip to end, because that's how far it's color graded. So again, let's look at this, taking it down. There's the original shot, and then there's the color graded shot. Now,